30. Everybody there? All right. So, hey, as you guys know, we've been doing, I think, a couple months now of an apologetics study on world religions, right? So we are examining what the religion promotes, believes, their truth claims. Okay, every single religion has truth claims, right? In other words, they claim to have the truth, right? And so, guys, off your phones. And so what we're doing is examining their truth claims and then comparing them with the Bible, but also reason and logic and the facts of history and whether it's livable. And so far we have found Christianity is the only correct religion, which that's what you will find. But we're going to start a new religion tonight, which is Hinduism. So if you guys thought that some of...
Started a religion.
Oh, well, okay. Context. We're going to start examining a new religion tonight. So, and that is Hinduism. How many of you guys have ever heard of Hinduism before? If you thought some of the other religions we've studied so far were confusing, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Hinduism is, I think, probably one of the most confusing. So let's do a little bit of an introduction, all right? So Hinduism is actually one of the world's oldest written religions, all right? So a lot of the religions way back in ancient times, they were oral in the sense that they were passed down by word of mouth, not written down. And so Hinduism is one of the world's oldest written religions. So we're going to ask a few questions regarding it. So when, about its origins, when was Hinduism founded? Anyone know?
500?
About 1500 BC. All right? So about 1500 BC. Now, where?
India.
In India/Pakistan. The first writings can be dated back to around 1500 BC. So question, what's happening? This is always a really important question to ask. What's happening, biblically speaking, during 1500 BC? Just the timeline of Scripture. Do you guys know what's happening in the Bible during this time in 1500 BC? Anyone, any ideas? So it's right around this time that the Israelites are slaves in Egypt. Okay? So something just to keep in mind, little point of reference for you as far as the timeline goes. Now, who are the founders?
No one knows.
We don't know. Yeah, they're lost to history. And not only are its founders lost to history, but really kind of the origins of the religion itself are, by and large, lost to history. So Hinduism started out as a polytheistic religion. What does that mean again?
Multiple gods.
Yes, belief in many gods, and it is polytheistic today. Submerged by a bunch of different ritual practices. And then the word Hindu actually means the people and culture of the Indus River region, which is in modern day Pakistan. Okay, so that's just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of its origins. There's a whole lot more we could do an entire night just on its beginnings, but we're just doing a cursory view of it. By the way, don't think, guys, that because, I took an apologetics thing in youth group with Jay on world religions. Don't think you're an expert on world religions. This is like a lifetime of a study that you should do because we're just touching some of the very basics. So how about Hinduism today? It's one of the most complex and one of the most confusing religions in the world. Okay, it has changed so much over the years throughout history, and it has throughout history embraced all different kinds of theism. For example, this might surprise you. Hinduism has at times embraced monotheism, animism, henotheism, polytheism, pantheism, and so on. Which goes to show, guys, it has no stability. The beliefs constantly seem to change, which is one reason that it can be so confusing to people. But not only that, but many of the beliefs in Hinduism are self-contradictory. Okay, we're going to find, probably in a couple weeks, just one of the reasons Hinduism fails as a worldview is because, remember the first test of a worldview? is it logically consistent? It is definitely not logically consistent. In fact, many Hindus, and like Hinduism as a whole, kind of rejects the laws of logic. And some of them even refer to it as, oh, that's Western logic. We have Eastern logic, where basically they'll embrace contradictory views as like, hey, they can both be equally true. And which, I mean, in our minds, that's crazy, right? But many people in the East, obviously not everyone, probably not even most of everyone, but some religions in the eastern part of the world, they believe that, hey, you could have contradictory beliefs and both of them are equally valid. So again, it's very confusing. It doesn't make any sense. But what makes it even more confusing is Hinduism worships 330 million gods. So think about that. 330 million gods. Now it doesn't mean every single Hindu worships that many gods. But just to kind of put this in perspective, guys, if you were to say out loud the names of every single one of these gods, and you took, let's say, 5 seconds per god, it would take you 52 years to say all of the gods without stopping. That's like to give you an idea, all right? So it's pretty intense. And we'll get into more of that later. But so worldwide, there's around 1.2 billion Hindus. In the U.S., there's about 2.5 million. All right. So though the number of Hindus in the U.S. might seem, I guess maybe relatively small. I mean, we have what, 300 million people, 300 or so million people in the U.S. So 2.5 million might seem like a relatively small number. Though that may be true, the religion has actually had a lot of influence on the Western world and on our country and culture specifically. Do you guys know that?
Yep.
So let me give you some examples. Or can you guys think of any examples of how Hinduism has had a big influence in our country? Yeah.
The New Age movement.
The New Age movement, 100%. What else? Josh? Say again, louder. Okay. Yeah, good, nice. What, Emerson? We had a candidate for president this year who tried to become president, and he's Hindu. You know who he is? Huh?
It's part of the cash parliament.
Yes.
Hi.
Vivek.
Vivek.
Yes. Okay, well, I guess you guys don't pay much attention to politics. That's
I
all right.
just couldn't remember the name. I knew there was one.
Any other ways you guys can think of how Hinduism has influenced the West and our country? Priscilla?
Entertainment.
Food.
Yeah, in a lot of our entertainment industries. How about, do you guys know anyone who practices yoga? Or anyone who practices Eastern meditation? Or anyone who's really into New Age kind of stuff? Or we've studied this before in apologetics, the worldview of relativism. That, hey, Aaliyah can believe that God exists and I can believe that God doesn't exist. These are contradictory views, but we're both equally right. All truth is relative, right? So, guys, it's important. These different beliefs and practices all have roots in Hinduism and Buddhism as well. Now, does that mean that if you take a yoga class, you're a Hindu?
No.
No, I mean not necessarily. There's if you want to know more about that, we can talk about that later. But there's different types of yoga as well, right? So there is some yoga or some yoga classes that literally all they consist of is doing stretches. Okay, fine. But there's other yoga classes and types of yoga that involve, different kinds of mystical meditation and thanking the universe and, becoming one with nature and all that other kind of BS. and it's pretty demonic stuff. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. Or how many of you guys like Star Wars? So guys, Star Wars, how many of you guys have never seen Star Wars? Okay. So guys, Star Wars actually has a lot of Hinduistic beliefs woven into their story and actually their message. A lot. And Buddhistic as well, which maybe we'll do a Star Wars study sometimes. Did you guys know there's actually an actual Star Wars religion? Like people actually believe it's religion? Or how about Doctor Strange?
Actually, I watched it and it was like really bad.
That's another one. That there's a lot of messages of Hinduism and Buddhism. Hey boys, do I need to separate you? This is your last chance before I do separate you. Or how about Avatar? Same thing.
Actually, I think
What?
I've seen it.
Same
Those are
thing.
not the same thing.
Those are
You
not
know
the
it.
same.
These are two different avatars, but they both. The point is they both have a lot of Hindu themes and beliefs in them.
You're just
Now,
a hater.
now I am a hater. What am I saying, guys? Am I saying, hey, we should never watch Star Wars? Is that what I'm saying?
No.
No, because
Yes.
you'd be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be a hypocrite. Look at that face.
Hey, I like Star Wars. It's like terribly cheesy, but I like it only for nostalgia's sake. But here's what I'm saying. Listen, I'm not saying don't watch Star Wars. What I'm saying is hey, shut it. What I'm saying is when we watch movies, see, you know what we usually do as Americans? Is when we watch movies, we shut our brain off and just want to be entertained. But here's the thing. Listen, every single movie has a message. And every single movie maker is trying to get his or her audience to believe and adopt some kind of worldview, beliefs, and practices. And so what I'm saying is, yeah, I think watching Star Wars is great. But my point is this. When we watch movies, we need to think critically when we watch them. And you guys need to ask yourself when you're watching movies, yeah, be entertained, but also don't shut your brain off. When you watch movies, ask yourself, what are they trying to get me to believe in this movie? What are they trying to teach me? Because every single movie out there, they are trying to teach you something. They are trying to convince you, to persuade you to believe and live out a certain worldview. And a lot of it is garbage. Trust your heart, follow your heart, become one with the universe, or whatever these different themes are. And it's BS. But you could throw that out if you're thinking critically and you're thinking biblically. But if you guys are not paying attention, you're going to be liable to be sucked in and believe those things without even realizing it, and you're going to start adopting some worldview lies. And that is why you need to think when you watch things. Okay? Make sense? Makes sense? So actually, guys, Hinduism began to have a really strong influence in the U.S. in the 1960s. Okay? And it really took off after that. And what was the primary avenue? Well, it was this group of British guys that had a band called
The Beatles?
Yeah.
I love the Beatles.
So check it out. The Beatles were strongly influenced by a Hindu guru that became their mentor, and they totally bought into the whole lie of Hinduism, and they went and kind of promoted it everywhere they went, and that's when it really took off in the West. So here's a picture of them with their little guru, their little guru guy. This guy's name is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Okay, so there he is. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the sacred writings, the scriptures in Hinduism. All right. By the way, there's quite a few of them, and they don't have what's called a closed canon per se, like we do. So we believe God has revealed his word to us in how many books? 66 books or letters or writings, whatever you, there's a variety, but 66. And it's closed. God is not, like, we're not adding more scripture to the back of our Bible today, right? God saw fit to give us those 66, and that's it. Now, Hinduism, it's not necessarily the case. So some of their priests or religious leaders can write more and add more. So it's pretty complex stuff. But the first group of writings are called the Vedas. Everyone say Vedas.
Vedas.
So Veda, the word Veda means knowledge. All right, there's several different Vedas, but these are the oldest writings in Hinduism. They date from around 1500 to 500 BC, and they kind of, the theme is about different wisdom writings and rituals, hymns, and prayers to the gods. Okay, so there's, like I said, there's 4 specific different Vedas. There's the Rig Veda, there's the Sama Veda, the Yajur Veda, and the Atharva Veda, and every single Veda consists of 4 different parts. All right, so you have the mantras. These are like verses and sounds that you make and hymns that are sung during rituals. You have the brahmanas, which are interpretations of the verses. You have the aranyakas. I probably totally butchered the pronunciation, but I don't care. And these are like reflections. These you're meant to reflect on the meaning of these different verses. And then finally, you have what are really famous, the Upanishads. Everyone say Upanishads.
Upanishads.
Okay, people say it with some conviction. Upanishads.
Upanishads.
I was still lame, but whatever. So these were written between 800 and 300 BC, the Upanishads. And these are like philosophical essays and mystical ideas about man and the universe. Okay, so the Upanishads teach about this thing called Brahman. Everyone say Brahman. Brahman is this, we're going to talk about more in a minute, but Brahman is this impersonal force. It's the ultimate reality. It's behind every single god. So a few other scriptures include the Mahabharata. Should I ask you to say that? The Mahabharata means the great epic of India. That's what the word means. It was written over a span of 800 years, from 400 BC to 400 AD. It's about some epic tales of India depicting characters who became good examples for how people should live. Okay? So this is actually the Mahabharata. It contains the longest poem of all time. The poem consists of 100,000 verses. So to put that in perspective for you, 100,000 verses. The Bible, the entire Bible, has a little over 41,000 verses. So this one poem has more than twice as many as that, around 100,000 verses, just to give you an idea. It's a very famous work in scripture within Hinduism. And then you also have the Bhagavad Gita. This is one of the most popular scriptures in Hinduism. Everyone say the Bhagavad Gita. All right. This means that term means the Lord's Song, and this is a poem that also has 700 verses. It's a favorite amongst many Hindus, and it teaches you how to reach liberation, which is what we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But then you also have another big story called the Ramayana, and that means Rama's way, and it's a story about this guy named Rama. He's a god in Hinduism, and his 7th avatar named Vishnu, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. So here's a couple pictures for you. These are satellite images taken back in 1500 BC. So there you have Arjuna talking to Krishna. Krishna is one of the avatars, the incarnations of the god Vishnu, and he's a warrior. And then you have Rama. So a few other scriptures. The Puranas, not like the fish that will eat you. But these are legends about the gods and goddesses, demons and ancestors. You also have, I'm going to go through these ones quick, so no worries, don't worry about writing them down. These are just some of the others, all right? The Vedantas, probably didn't say that right. The Darshanas and the Tantras, and so on. So Tantras are about how to kind of gain occultic power. Then the Sutras rituals and social life. Okay, makes sense. All right, so let's talk about this is going to be the core of our study tonight. Let's talk about some of the beliefs within Hinduism. All right, it's important to know, guys. There's a lot of different sects within Hinduism, and they don't all believe the same thing. So some of this might vary depending on which Hindu you talk to. But by and large, all Hindus accept these 5 important beliefs. All right, I'm going to give you guys 5 of the core beliefs within Hinduism. The first is the god Brahman. Everyone say Brahman?
Brahman.
All right. So Brahman is the highest of all gods. All right. He's kind of the supreme god within Hinduism. He's impersonal, meaning he really doesn't care about you or your well-being. He's not a personal being. And I mentioned earlier, right, that Hinduism is polytheistic, right? What does that mean again?
Multiple gods.
All right, so Hinduism is also pantheistic. Anyone remember what that means?
They believe all gods are.
Yeah, pantheistic says that everything is God and God is in everything. Okay? We're going to talk about that more in a minute. So another thing about this core belief is that Brahman is ultimate reality. Okay? Get ready to get confused. Okay? Brahman, read this, is ultimate reality. Brahman is the essence of all that exists. Okay? Brahman is the creator. Brahman is an impersonal oneness without any distinction. So again, guys, pantheism, it doesn't say that God necessarily created. Listen, don't miss this. Listen. Pantheism does not say that God necessarily created the world. Rather, God is the world and everything in it. Are you confused yet?
Yes.
Good, you should be, because it doesn't make any sense. But here's another important point, is that the universe and everything in it is Brahman, this divine thing, essence, whatever you want to call it. In fact, here's a really important point, guys. Brahman alone exists. Everything else is Maya. I wish Maya was here tonight. Maya is a word that means an illusion. Okay? So this term actually, Maya, it's related to the word magic. So the idea, guys, is that our lives and our daily experience, it's not actually real. It's just a magical illusion. That's the idea in Hinduism, okay? Brahman, this ultimate reality, guys, that's all that actually exists. Everything else isn't real. Everything else is an illusion. Okay? So keep that in mind. We're going to talk about this more in a couple minutes. But let's look at just a couple more things regarding Brahman. All right, here's another important point. Brahman is indescribable and undefinable. Do you guys see a problem with that? What have we been doing this? We've been describing Brahman. So we know that he's impersonal. We know that Brahman is this ultimate reality, this oneness without any distinctions, yet we couldn't know that if Brahman was indescribable or undefinable. So it's self-defeating, right? That's a contradiction right there. So another thing, though Brahman is the supreme deity, he manifests himself in the form of these 330 million different gods. Emmanuel, you okay? What's going on? Yes. So the different ways that he manifests himself, these are called avatars. Sound familiar? All right. So we'll talk about avatars more in a few minutes. But guys, almost anything in Hinduism can be a god. In fact, with some Hindus, they even believe that certain concepts or ideas are gods. Think about that. Like a concept can be a god in Hinduism. And then finally, let's look at some of the expressions, the manifestations, how Brahman manifests himself or itself. So first you have one of the major gods is Brahma. Okay? Brahma, the creator. All right, that's how he's referred to. Brahma, the creator. So his representation is this four-faced head, as you guys can see in this picture. So,
Well, I see three.
yeah, well, go up higher over the TV and you'll see the one behind. Sixth graders. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about the mythology, the mythology behind Brahma. So Brahma originally only had, according to Hindu belief, he originally only had one head, but he was like hardcore infatuated with this goddess named Sarasvati. And so in the story, she was like his cousin, so it wasn't appropriate for him to be infatuated with her. So nonetheless, he was staring at her intently. She got uncomfortable, and so she moved out of his line of sight, and then poof, up popped a new head. So he was looking at her with that head, and so she was creeped out, so she moved out of the line of sight of that. So then, you know, he sprung up a third head, and then a fourth, and finally a fifth head, and was just staring. Well, just calm down. Let me explain. So then Shiva, who's another god, Shiva the destroyer, showed up, and he saw what was going on, and he got angry at Brahma's inappropriate behavior. So Shiva has like a third eye right here, and he opened it, and anytime he opens his eye, this like death ray proceeds, and it like blew off one of his like fifth head, and so basically it destroyed one of his 5 heads, and then Shiva kind of was like, okay, well, I guess that's enough, and he kind of relented. And according to some of the myths, Sarasvati was like, all right, I guess I'll become your wife. And
That's
so,
impressive.
yeah.
I don't think that's.
You know, that's how it works, right? Like when a guy's like creeping on a girl, and a girl like is like, stop, and then he just keeps pursuing her. Eventually she's just like, okay, fine. Is that how it works? Guys, take some lessons. That's not how it works. Yes.
Is this story like people like Hindus believe that it actually happened, or is it like one of those things where like, oh,
No, it's
Greek
it's,
gods
yeah.
up in the sky?
No, it's well, the ancient Greeks believed that in the Greek mythology that it was real. Yeah. So.
So is this like
No,
that?
they believe, yeah, that it was real. So you also in like India, especially, you have a lot of different temples dedicated to Brahma, and also a lot of like household idols, household gods to Brahma. And then, so also, guys, in Hinduism, many of the male manifestations of Brahman, they have at least one, what's called a Shakti, which is like a female god, like a female wife, more like a mistress rather than a wife. So Sarasvati is the kind of sort of wife of Brahma, okay, Brahma the creator. So her area of expertise, if you will, is learning, education, and the arts. And so she's the goddess of the schools, and a lot of people, like on her day, where people worship her, you know, they'll do special things for her, pay her special attention in hopes that she'll help them with their schoolwork and give them success. So, and then you have the second major god of Hinduism called Vishnu, and he's Vishnu the preserver. So you have Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and some Hindus view him as the ultimate god, and they only worship him, and they call him Ram. So in many of his depictions, you'll find 4 arms, okay? Remember, Ellie, the 6 feet that were surrounding you earlier? That's kind of, I said, like, that's like the almost Hinduism's version of 4 arms. So you'll see 4 arms. Now, in every single one of the 4 hands, there's something different. You see in the top right hand, a discus, his right hand, not the right of the screen. And then you see a conch shell in another, see that in his top left hand. And then you see a mace in another one, that's the bottom right. And then a lotus flower in another hand. Okay? And they all mean different things. He's usually seen riding this mythical creature called Garuda. He's like the king of all birds. Sometimes he's riding this snake instead called Shisha or Shesha. So what is Vishnu the preserver? What's his primary concern?
Life.
Maintaining the true way of the gods. All right? So what does he do? Well, when the world gets all out of whack, he will incarnate himself. You guys know what incarnation means? Okay, as Christians, we believe in a specific incarnation, the incarnation of Jesus. So it's where God becomes human. Okay, so Vishnu, what he will do when the world gets all out of whack, he'll come and incarnate himself in one of his many different forms. So a couple of his main ways that he'll come is either as a heroic human or a powerful animal. His incarnate forms are called avatars, right? And he has a lot of different avatars, a lot of different incarnate forms. By the way, for all of you weird Avatar fans, let me just tell you, the word avatar, since you may not know this, the word avatar comes from the preposition ava, which means down. So the idea of avatar is of a god coming down or descending to the earth. Wow, Jay, thanks. So now when I watch my idolatrous avatar, I can keep that. I'm just thinking of Peter. All right, I'm just kidding. All right, so some of Vishnu's most popular or most common avatars are they all have names. I'm not going to read the names, but a fish, a turtle, a boar, a man lion, a dwarf, a guy with an axe, a king, and then Krishna, the lover. That's like the most popular of his avatars. You guys ever heard of Krishna? You guys ever heard of the group called the Hare Krishnas?
No.
Okay. They even believe that he, in like one of his avatars is Buddha, which is strange. Well, so Buddhism is going to be our next religion we study in a while. But finally, the third major god within Hinduism is Shiva, the destroyer. So I kind of already talked about his third eye, so you can see that. But he's kind of known for his hot temper, and he's, Shiva the destroyer. The concept is usually people view him as the destroyer of evil, but not necessarily always. Like, watch out. So his two most popular depictions are, look at the top picture as Lord of the Dance. So you can see him dancing on a snake that he's destroying. And then another representation is as Pasupati, which is the Lord of the Beasts. This is the bottom picture here. You can see like his leopard skin that he has on. His hair is known to be like stacked up pretty high. He has a third eye that you can see right there. Remember, when he opens it, it's like the death ray comes out. It's kind of, I always just think of Star Wars with the Death Star. Definitely not really what it is. And then his symbol is a trident. Okay, so a couple other things. His Shakti, which is again like his mistress, is the goddess Parvati, and they have two sons, Ganesha, which is actually a very famous one. You've probably seen pictures of it before. It's a picture of a body, but with the head of an elephant, with a broken tusk, and there's a whole mythological story behind that we won't get into. And then the god of war. So if you want some resources studying the mythology on that, I can tell you afterward. So the second major belief, remember there's 5 major beliefs we're talking about tonight. The second major belief within Hinduism is the Brahman-Atman unity, which in other words, oneness with Brahman. So guys, I want you to think about something. Remember, Hinduism is pantheistic, which means what?
Everything is God.
Everything is God. And God is in everything. So what does that mean, guys? Like, think about it. In essence, we are all gods. Because we are a part of everything. So it's a common belief within Hinduism that we are all gods. So what is oneness like? What is this belief? Oneness with Brahman. In essence, here's what it is, guys. Pay attention. A person's true self. This is called Atman. Everyone say Atman.
Atman.
Everyone say Atman.
Atman.
So a person's true self. That's what Atman is. Your true self is extended from Brahman and one with Brahman. Again, Brahman is this ultimate reality. Okay? Makes sense? Brahman is this ultimate reality. So guys, in essence, think about this. That's your true self. You in here tonight are not your true self. your body, your mind, your thoughts are not real, according to Hinduism. They're all just an illusion. You are an illusion. You sitting here in this room tonight, right now, is an illusion. I'm not even speaking to you right now. This is all just an illusion, according to Hinduism. Okay, so your true, real self is one with and part of this ultimate reality called Brahman. So here's a common analogy that people make. So think of like a jar. Can I use that cup? Thanks. Don't throw it. Thank you. Imagine this is a jar, because that's the analogy they usually give. And imagine there's a lid that you could have, but it's not on. So just like the air inside this cup or jar is identical to the air surrounding the outside of the jar, so also our essence, in the same way, our essence of our true self is identical to Brahman's essence, the ultimate reality. You confused?
Yes.
So, guys, this is the point. Everything that we experience in this life, on this earth, everything we feel, everything you think is real, it's not. It's just an illusion. Our oneness with Brahman, that's the only thing that is there. That's all that's real. Everything else is an illusion. So the logical conclusion, again, of all this, if we are one with Brahman, we are gods. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Satan's tactics really haven't changed, have they? Go back to the very beginning of history. What did Satan try to convince?
That they'd be like God if they ate the fruit.
They eat the fruit. And if you do, you will become like God himself. Which is interesting because many believe, according to Scripture, that's the exact prideful sin that Satan fell into. He wanted to be like God. And guys, his tactics really haven't changed. He's still doing the same thing today. And listen, it's not just in Hinduism. Here's the scary thing, guys. Satan has even brought this false teaching into many churches. There are many churches that teach that we are little gods. I have a couple videos to show you guys, but I'm going to skip them.
Why do you
So,
always skip them?
I think because we're running out of time. We've got to hurry up. So I'm going to probably show these videos next week because there's actually a lot more that I want to get into this of watching out for these false doctrines and these influences of Hinduism creeping into some churches, okay? But guys, listen, this is why you need to know your Bible. Because if you don't know the Word and you're not studying the Word correctly, you can, and some of you may have been deceived by these false teachings. That's why you got to know the Word. Okay, so let's move on to the third core belief. Within Hinduism, it's called samsara. Everyone say samsara.
Samsara.
Not Sam and Sarah. Samsara. Samsara it means reincarnation. Everyone say reincarnation. What is reincarnation, Eric? Sebastian, what is reincarnation?
When you go how like you die and your body like reincarnates inside a cow. Something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like something like that in like India.
Yeah, you're spot on.
What?
It's very weird.
Wait, why?
Hey, guys. Shh. What?
Reincarnation is when you die, your soul relives another thing. So either you become another person, or you become an animal, or
Right.
an object.
Exactly. It's the endless cycle, listen, of life, and then death, and then rebirth into something else, and then life, and death, and rebirth, and so on and so forth. So according to Hinduism, everyone experiences samsara. And pretty much all of us have and will continue to experience reincarnation tons and tons and tons of times. You have probably been reincarnated millions of times already, according to Hinduism. Yeah, question?
Oh no, I was just gonna comment on reincarnation.
Okay, gotcha. So a question you could ask a Hindu is, how do you know that? How do you know what you were in a previous life? Let alone, how do you know that you even existed in another lifetime in the past? I was at the mall in San Diego when I used to live there, and I was out sharing the gospel with people, and this little man that looked like Santa Claus, had a big white beard, walked up to me, and I was sharing the gospel with him, and he tells me he believes in reincarnation. He tells me in one of his past lives he was like a deer or something. And I just told him, like, how do you know that? And it was crazy. Like, you wouldn't think it would have been this easy, but he like sat there and stared at me and then looked, and he's like, I don't know. It's like, okay, well, sometimes that's all it takes, just to question them. So here's an important point, guys, of reincarnation. Samsara, your actions in this life determine what kind of body you will be reincarnated to in your next life. Write this down if you're taking notes. This is a core part of samsara. Your actions in this life determine what kind of body you're going to be reincarnated into in your next life. So, you could, depending on how you live in this life, you could be reincarnated in your next life as a cow, or a fly, or a parasite, or a human in the next life. In fact, guys, every single living thing that we see today could be someone from a previous life, just reincarnated today. So that cockroach that you smashed last night could have been your great grandmother. It's possible. Yeah. Hey, can you all hear Savannah?
No. When you're reincarnated, your soul goes with you.
That's a great question. Sort of. But kind of not. But sort of.
Remember, you don't have a soul. You're just brought.
It's an illusion.
Well, like, in the illusion, wouldn't it technically be like your soul just kind of floating around sometimes in your body, right?
Peter, you're not allowed to think about these things.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to use
That
the
thought you
brain.
just had is just an illusion.
You're-
By the way,
truth.
guys, that should cause you to question, well, then aren't all the scriptures just an illusion? And those guys who had those thoughts to write down the Hindu scriptures,
They're an illusion
weren't
too.
they just under an illusion?
Stop thinking it's an illusion. Didn't you say in the beginning that
Shh, hey, knock it off.
they believe that like everything could be true?
Yeah, you can embrace contradictory views and it's no problem.
So an illusion could be true.
Except this one. That is all an illusion. Yes, Carly.
Like when you're incarnated, what makes you you? Like how do you just keep going? Like what is the self?
That's one of the problems with this worldview. It's logically inconsistent. Eric, I want you to come sit right there. And Emmanuel, I want you to go sit next to Kim. Thank you. All right. I think you're the only Emmanuel here. Yes, thank you. So, guys, I want you to take note of something really important, okay? Listen. Reincarnation. See, a lot of Westerners, a lot of Americans think of like reincarnation as like, oh man, that would be awesome. Like I could just keep coming back and it would be really cool and I could do a bunch of stuff. Not so in the Hindu mind. Okay? Reincarnation is not viewed at all as a positive thing to Hindus. All right? So take note of this. Reincarnation is a dreaded experience in Hinduism. It's one from which we all need to be set free from. Hindus don't want samsara, reincarnation. It's a horrible thing. Why? Why?
Well, because the goal is enlightenment to be ultimately one with the Brahman. So I think that like
the problem, like that we're saying, is that everybody already is Brahmin, but I think that like the goal is to be Brahmin. So I think that the reincarnation process is a part of becoming Brahmin, and that everybody hasn't made it there yet, which is why people do have identities, because they haven't reached the non-identity of Brahmin.
Mariah, stop illusioning the illusion, please.
Mariah, you're thinking about it too much. It's just an illusion.
Yeah. So listen, guys. Why is samsara? Why is reincarnation such a dreaded thing in Hinduism? Guys, it's because in Hinduism, according to Hinduism and Buddhism as well, did you guys know Buddhism originated from Hinduism? It came out of Hinduism. But listen, in both Hinduism and Buddhism, life, listen, this is important. Life is suffering. That's it. Life is suffering. So, think about it. So then to keep coming back to suffer more and more and more is a horrifying thought. Since that's all that life is suffering. So they don't want to experience reincarnation anymore. Guys, there is no hope after death in Hinduism. Hindus desire liberation from reincarnation. Man, what a great opportunity for us, right? To share the hope that is found in Jesus. The hope after death. Man, what a great opportunity. All right, fourth belief, karma.
Karma.
What is karma? Sebastian.
I was gonna say that's stupid.
Thank you for not. Thank you for not. Savannah.
So that if you do good things in this life, then like, or if you do bad things, then it reflects the afterlife.
It's part of it, for sure. Yeah, good.
It's the consequences of your actions. So if you do wrong, then Brahmin will do wrong to you, and if you do good, Brahmin will do good to you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so guys, there's actually, listen, don't miss this. There's a lot of misunderstanding amongst a lot of people about karma. Okay, and here's actually another example of Hinduism's influence on the West. You guys ever heard someone say, karma? Sebastian just said it. But like when someone like falls and eats it and they're like, ha, karma, you know? Or have you ever heard someone say like, yeah, I need to have some like good karma in my life? Where are those roots from? Hinduism, okay? So, what is karma according to Hinduism? Here it is. It's kind of like cause and effect, but sort of like with morality. All right? So it's somewhat, ladies, it's somewhat similar to what we refer to as Christians when we say you reap what you sow. But there's a whole lot of like major differences as well to that, okay? And here's why. Because karma, check this out, note this, write this down. Karma refers to the consequences that you experience for every choice you make, every thought you have, and every action you take. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Karma refers to the consequences you experience for every single choice you make, every thought you have, and every action you take. Now I want you guys to note something. These consequences are not from actions, thoughts, or choices you make in this life. Okay? Whatever karma you experience now in this life, it's not because of anything you've done in this life. It's because of things you've done in your past lives. Right? So what you do now in life is going to influence your karma in your future lives. Okay? So karma is unalterable. In other words, it cannot change. In other words, you will experience either good or bad karma for what you did in a previous life. Okay? Make sense? So one of the core ideas in Hinduism is that you deserve everything that happens to you. Think about that. You deserve everything that happens to you. Yeah.
So, obviously, when someone, like, has chronic back pain, it's because they did something horrible when they were a fish in the Atlantic Ocean.
Could be.
How dare you?
Or a mussel or a mollusk.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So guys, think about it. Think about this teaching and the moral implications this has. You deserve everything that happens to you. Now, Buddhists believe this as well. There was a Buddhist nun who was being interviewed. I've tried to find it, but I haven't been able to find it. But there was a Buddhist nun who was being interviewed, and the person interviewing her talked about a little girl who had been raped. And the interviewer asked the Buddhist nun, so according to your religion, Buddhism, but this is also true in Hinduism, that little girl deserved it? And she said, yeah. She deserved, this little girl deserved what happened to her. And furthermore, you should not help her because this is her karma from a previous life. Think of the moral implications, guys. If you deserve every single thing that happens to you, well, then why do we have a justice system and courts and prisons? If you, like, whatever happens to you, whether good or bad, if Daniel chops one of my arms off, why should he be thrown in jail for it? I deserved it. Right? Do you guys see the problems here? Like, the moral implications are massive. And guys, this whole concept has had catastrophic effects on people's lives in India. Look at these pictures. There are approximately 18 million children living on the streets and in the slums of India. 18 million children not being helped by anyone in society. Living in the worst conditions in India. They're malnourished, as you can see. They're starving. Many of them are deformed. And it's not just children, it's adults as well. And they're suffering greatly. And no one seems to notice them. And the big question is, man, why? And furthermore, if you go to India, you will see over 5 million stray cows, fat, healthy cows, wandering the same streets as the malnourished people. Look at this picture here. That's a perfect example for you. These cows that are fat, healthy, eating all the time, wandering the same streets where you have tons of starving people. Again, the big question, why? As far as the kids go and the poor, maimed, starving people go, remember the core concept of karma? You deserve everything that happens to you. So according to Hinduism, all of these kids, they deserve the suffering that they're experiencing. You don't need to help them. There's no moral obligation to help them. In fact, actually, listen, most of the time you actually are not supposed to help them. You are discouraged in India from helping these kids. These are referred to as the untouchables. Why? Well, it's all part of Hinduism has a caste system. You guys know what a caste system is? Yeah, go ahead.
So then, what did the cows do in their past life that makes them good, or not better, but what did they do in their past life that makes them why are you allowed to feed them, not the children? What did they do in the past life?
Excellent question. I'm going to explain that in just a minute. Great question. Yeah.
What if you were reincarnated as I don't know, maybe something that
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. In fact, the concept in Hinduism is you have probably been reincarnated millions of times already, and you'll probably be reincarnated millions of more times. So like, you could be reincarnated as a cockroach, be smashed, and then boom, reincarnated into something else, and then maybe killed again, and then boom. And it's just this endless cycle of suffering. Life, death, rebirth. Life, death, rebirth. Over and over and over. Yep. I don't know. That's a good question. Probably. Yes. There are doctors, which is interesting. Why? Right? Again, it's pretty inconsistent. And again, remember guys, the third test of every worldview, a true worldview is livable. You cannot consistently live out Hinduism. Yes?
So let's say if you get reincarnated and you get killed automatically by the chancla, let's say you get like a you're reincarnated as a cockroach and the chancla comes and you do absolutely nothing in life. So technically your next life is like perfect because you didn't
Nope.
do anything.
No, because good question, you're experiencing karma not just from your past life, but your past lives.
Happens if you were
So let's say in one life you did tons of evil, and your next life you were reincarnated for 5 minutes and got smashed. That was you're experiencing karma from maybe just one thing you did in the past life. So then your next life, you're experiencing karma from those previous lives of all the other things you did.
Okay,
So you could experience, it could take you thousands of lives to experience karma from maybe just one life of actions of things you did.
Okay, this is too confusing. I give up.
But then during those thousands of lives, you're creating more karma for yourself during that time, whether good or bad karma. Yes.
If everybody deserves the bad karma that comes to them, then don't they also deserve the good karma that comes to them?
Yeah.
And in that sense, like if doing good gets you to a higher place in the caste system and then eventually to better reincarnation, to enlightenment, then shouldn't it be encouraged to help these kids? Because if you want good karma, then you should be doing good things.
Excellent question.
Further yourself.
We're going to talk about that in the next slide, but that's a really good question.
So say you were.
But no, not according to them.
So say you were like a relatively good person, you did good in all your past lives, you had like good karma coming for you. If you were to like go and help one of these kids who have bad karma, would that put you on like the naughty list or something, and now you have bad karma because you helped someone?
We're going to talk about that in 2 slides from now. Great question. But yes.
So
You're
is
on the
it
list.
so like, let's say like your first ever life, right? You're like a newborn baby, fresh out the womb, and like, and like
What kind of baby? A human baby?
human baby. We'll go with human baby, right? And you make like a ton of really good decisions. I don't know, you become
That's
president. You like save a bunch of people from like bad karma or whatever. I don't know. You do a bunch of really good things, and then you die. Haven't you now just created a little bubble where you are perpetually experiencing good things, and now you'll never do a bad thing?
Unless you do something bad. Then you're creating bad karma for yourself, which
Okay.
everyone does. But here's a good question.
What if your
Who
relative-
defines?
Yeah, what's
Yeah, what if your
Right
relative
and
truth
wrong.
is just, I've never done anything bad, and then all of your karma turns good, and
If
now you're
everything's
gone?
an illusion, then it was bad, but you're like, well, I'm good.
So the key, we're going to get into it in the 5th core belief of Hinduism, of moksha. That's the goal. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But listen, Hinduism has what's called a caste system. So here it is for you. All right. In Hinduism, everyone is divided into one of 5 groups in the caste system. One of 5 castes. So the highest is the Brahmins. Okay. Now these are the priests, the scholars, academics. Okay. They're the top of the food chain. They have the best life. Okay. Below them, you can't get any higher than that. That's the best. Below them, you have the Kshatriya. Okay? Now, these are like the warriors and political leaders. All right? They're not as good as the first one, but you're still living a pretty good life. The third caste is the Vaishya. Okay, now these are merchants and landowners. Okay, now listen, these three upper castes, now don't think class, because they're different things. We think like the middle class, upper class, lower class. They're different things, different concepts. These three higher castes, okay, they have the best life. The most, and you could maybe say privilege, or the best lifestyle, the best benefits. They get full access to take part in all things Hindu. Not every Hindu gets to partake in Hindu rituals, worship at Hindu temples. The top three do. Okay? Then you have, did I see a hand go up? Yeah.
Can you like work your way up?
Great question. I'm going to tell you in 1 second.
Okay.
Then you have the lower two castes. You have the Shudras. Okay? Now, get this. The entire purpose of this caste is to serve the upper three castes. Your whole purpose of existence, if you're in the Shudra caste, is to serve these guys. All right? Yeah.
So, can you be reincarnated as a human multiple times?
You can. Mm-hmm.
And what can you do as an animal that's so bad for your life?
That's a great question. Because
Like-
animals don't have morals.
They don't.
But maybe in Hinduism.
Like, what as a fish could I do that would make my human life so horrible?
Eat another fish, maybe?
So like survive.
So listen, guys, listen. Shudras, they are considered unclean. All right. So if someone from the upper three castes touches a Shudra, they are considered defiled.
Wow.
Okay. So you might have a Shudra be your servant, or something, but like you don't touch them, because then you'll become unclean. And then finally, guys, at the very bottom of the caste system, you have the Dalits. The Dalits are also called the untouchables. These are the outcasts of society. I mean, think about it. Caste, and they're on the outside, so they are the outcasts. They are considered totally unclean to their very core. In fact, guys, they are so looked down upon that even if their shadow touches you, you become defiled. Like, they are the deplorables. All right? If their shadow touches you, you become defiled if you're in a higher caste than them. Listen, guys, the untouchables, they are never allowed to go worship at a Hindu temple. They're never allowed to partake in any of the Hindu rituals. They can't participate in anything Hindu. All right? That's how disgusting they are. So, what a contrast to Jesus. What did Jesus do to unclean lepers? He didn't just heal them. He touched them. Guys, do you know how revolutionary that was in Jesus' day? Don't you just love Jesus? I mean, that's so, this is so contrary to the heart and the lifestyle of Jesus. Now, in response to Emma's question, here's the sad reality, guys. You cannot, this is very un-American, you cannot work your way up the ladder to be in a higher caste. You are born into whatever caste you are. It's like you're assigned it at birth, so to speak. You're born into it, and there's no escape from whatever caste you are born into. You're just stuck, whether you're in the highest or in the lowest or somewhere in between. Yeah. Possibly, yeah. Yeah.
So then don't you just like do a bunch of good and then kill yourself?
Well, that might be bad karma.
When you get bad karma for that, yeah.
Right.
So a commoner couldn't just like enlist in the military and then suddenly they're a warrior. Because that's
That's a great question. I'm not sure how it works in India and their specific government. They have changed somewhat over the years, but in some of their practices. Like for example, and I'll maybe touch on this next week. When we did an apologetic study on worldviews, I don't know if you guys remember that far back, but I shared how it's all about worldview. Like why in some parts of India, when a man dies, they cremate his body on this big pyre, this giant bonfire. The living widow will jump into it and burn to death for her husband because that's good karma. Now that's still practiced by some in India, but the government has in some places done away with it. You're not allowed to do that. So it may vary depending on, as far as, do you have to be in a certain caste to be in the military? That's a great question. I'm
how would
not
that
sure.
even be determined though? Like what caste you're in? Because it's not like you can enlist until a specific age, anyways.
Yeah, well, probably whatever your parents are, you're probably born into whatever caste they are, and this has been going on for a long, long time. Now, so guys, listen, if you are born into the bottom tier of the caste system, the Dalits, the untouchables, that's just your fate. You're dirty, you're unwanted, you're an untouchable. Now, how many of you guys know who Gandhi was? Mahatma Gandhi? He called the untouchables children of God. Which that might sound initially like, oh wow, cool, he's doing good for them. But, if you really do your research, he did nothing to improve their situation. And he even told the untouchables that they should rejoice in their caste status. I mean, what a joke, right?
The best one.
Yeah, some people practically worship Gandhi, but he needed Jesus, and unfortunately, he didn't receive Jesus. So Dalits, the untouchables, they live in the slums of India. These are some of the slums in India. You can see just trash heaps. That's where they live. So they contract all kinds of diseases, skin issues. They're starving. It breaks your heart. It's tragic to see. So why are there fat, healthy cows right in the same street as starving people? Well, there's a few reasons for that. One, in answer to your question, Autumn, cows in Hinduism are sacred. So cows are actually a physical manifestation of the mother goddess Aditi. Okay? So cows are highly revered. So to kill a cow is forbidden, maybe not necessarily by everyone, but by many in Hinduism it's forbidden. Furthermore, remember samsara, right? Reincarnation. A cow walking down the street could be one of your relatives, one of your ancestors, or a friend who died in the past and now is reincarnated as a cow. A cow is the way to go.
Or the
Right?
untouchables.
Huh?
Or maybe the untouchables.
Possibly. Probably not, because they're the most despised. But can you guys see the deceptive lie of Satan here? Think about it. God gave, let's go all the way back to Genesis 9. Genesis 9. God gave, after the flood, after Noah got off the ark, God said, I'm giving you all the animals for food. So cows, it's not their only purpose, but we are allowed to eat cows as food. God never went back on that. So God gave mankind freedom to eat animals, including cows, for their nourishment. And it's so like Satan, isn't it? To get people to believe the lie that an animal is sacred and to even elevate an animal above human life and thus devalue human life. What's Satan's threefold desire for every one of our lives? Steal, kill, destroy, right? And he's getting people to starve and suffer and die while you have fat animals right next to him that God gave us to eat. Satan has deceived so many people with that lie. But that's not all, and we'll close with this. Guys, Hindus believe that if they helped, so this answers Mariah or one of your guys' questions. Hindus believe that if you help a starving child on the street with food or a blanket or clothing, you're actually extending their suffering. Doesn't that seem like such a twisted, backward view, right? Again, listen, it's all about your worldview. Your worldview changes everything. According to the Hindu, why in the heck would it be unhelpful to help a suffering child and untouchable on the street? Well, because that suffering child, they're experiencing bad karma for their previous actions. So they have to experience negative consequences in order to, so to speak, work off their bad karma. So if you help them, you're just delaying them from working off their bad karma. Make sense? So it's better to let them suffer now. So just, in essence, leave them alone. In the Hindu mind, that's the actual kind thing to do. Plus, guys, if you do help them, it's actually seen as cruel by some. So by doing something cruel, you're actually increasing your own bad karma. So the best thing to do, hey, just focus on yourself. Taking care of yourself. Don't worry about others, which again, is exactly what Satan wants us to do, right? Jesus said, die to self. And again, just what a lie, what a contrast to how God told us to take care. I mean, look at these verses, just really quick. Open your mouth for the speechless. Write these verses down if you're taking notes. And the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth. Judge righteously. Plead the cause of the poor and needy. That's what God tells us to do. Here's another one. If you want these verses afterward, I'll give them to you. I'll just sum this up for you. Josiah was a godly king, and he took care of the poor and needy. And God says, look, that is why God blessed him. He gave justice and help to the poor and needy, and everything went well with him. Isn't that what it means to know me, says the Lord? That's what it means to know God, is to help those in need. Isaiah 58, we won't read this one, but read Isaiah 58 on your own. I mean, God commands the people. Look, what kind of fast? It's not just a fast from food. What kind of fast does God want? Help people in need. So read, guys. Read Isaiah 58 on your own time. James 1:27. Pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this. You want to know what good, godly religion is? It's to care for orphans and widows in their misfortune, and to keep yourself unstained by the world. And finally, you guys know Jesus' words, do unto others whatever you would have them do to you. And this is the essence of all that is taught in the Old Testament. So guys, this whole idea that it's cruel to help the suffering, that's just another twisted lie of Satan. So we'll pick it up there next week. Okay? We'll look at the fifth core belief, moksha. How do we get liberated from reincarnation? That's the fifth one. All right? Cool? So if you have questions, you can ask afterward. Emma, you want to close this in prayer?
Sure.
Thanks.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, and I just thank you for all these people here, Lord, and I just thank you for bringing us together and giving us a place to worship you, Lord, and to learn about Hinduism and other religions so we can better defend our faith, and just also be so grateful for just you, Father, and how much you love us and how much you care for us, and we just thank you so much for sending your Son to die on the cross for our sins, Lord, and just giving us a hope that so many of these other people who believe in these other religions don't have. And I pray that we would use this and we would go out, Lord, and we would share everything that we know about you, Lord, and just bring these other people to know you. And I pray that everyone gets home safely tonight. And I just thank you for Jay and just the heart that he has for this youth, Lord. And I pray all this in your name.
Hey guys. God bless you. Don't become Hindu.